This is TrackMania, an arcade racing game that's grown into a huge success with a dedicated community over the last 2 decades. TrackMania runs on completely deterministic physics and is insanely technical at times. But it's also incredibly simple. To pick it up and play, all you need to know is 4 buttons pretty much. Accelerate, turn left or right, and brake. That's it. You don't need a tutorial to understand this, as it's simple in design. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Before we get into the video, I just want to say thank you to everyone who's been supporting the channel so far. There's lots of great stuff to come and I can't wait to share it with you guys. That said, if you're new to the channel or you just like my deep dives, I'd like to ask you to please consider subscribing and dropping a like, as it helps the channel so much more than you might realize. So, with that out of the way, let's get back into it. Don't worry, yes, this is a video about combo trials and fighting games, but I think for us as fighting game players, to understand how to attract newcomers and teach them, we have to look at our games from a different perspective. Combo trials are where most people go after a tutorial to try a game out. In fact, many players stay in trials mode more than training mode. They can learn simple combos and then jump right into matches online or with friends. But after researching for this video, I found that trials might actually do more harm than good. So before I get into TrackMania and all that, let's start from the beginning. For many players, combo trials are an integral part of learning a game. I'm the same way. If I want to learn a character, I'll learn their combos to feel them out. After all, if you don't like a character's inputs or combo structure, there's almost no way you'd stick with them anyways. And for this, combo trials are invaluable. But what happens when you're ready for the next step, like an actual match? Well, for many, they'll struggle to remember even one of the combos they learned, and they freeze up or revert to mashing buttons. This is because combo trials are based off of the learning styles method of teaching. To sum that up, this approach groups people into 4 groups based on their most effective learning style. The styles are visual, audio, reading and writing, and kinesthetic. You can see all of these types of teaching in the way fighting games try to teach us. Many games will have visual demonstration of their combos, which are usually helpful. Tekken has a system that breaks its moves down by audio cues, which can help players understand when to press a button in a string or a combo. Some games feature demonstration modes or character description that sum up their overall game plan, and kinesthetic just means hands-on, which all combo trials already are. So, if fighting games have all of these bases covered in one way or another, what's the problem? Well, learning styles as an approach to teaching have somewhat been debunked lately. There wasn't really a study made to support this theory, it just seemed natural to most, as I'm sure it did to you.
It's false. No way. Not this time. We created it. Not this time. No.
Many consider themselves visual learners or better when they can get their hands on something, but realistically, it's just not that simple. When teaching someone a combo, it isn't just the order of the buttons pressed, but the meaning of why they're pressing, or in other words, the context. We've all been in this situation where we're fighting an opponent and we land a jump-in on them, or some sort of big opening. It's the perfect opportunity to unleash that big combo we learned in the trials mode a day or 2 ago, but after you land that first hit, something is just a little off. The opponent is a bit further away, or maybe you hit the attack too high up, and now you can't land that big combo. It's happened to all of us, and it's not that you forgot how to do the combo, but rather the situation is just different. This is where combo trials drop the ball. The trials we have in most fighting games are great for giving us a solution to a problem, but they're mostly not great at teaching us how to get the solution for ourselves. I'll get into a real life scenario for this one. So, here's a Kyo combo in King of Fighters 15. This is the first combo that Kyo has, and it's not that hard to complete. It's pretty much one button into some follow-ups, but as I'm doing it, I don't know what I'm actually doing. For the people watching this who don't play King of Fighters, can you tell me what's happening? Obviously the next response is to check out the move list and see if it can tell me what I'm doing in this combo. And after looking at the move list, I'm genuinely more confused than I was before I looked. So, frustrated with all of that, I decided to keep pushing forward and try out more trials. Here's the last one. What am I looking at here? This is a bit ridiculous, and the game doesn't even try to help me out here. I can go look for the key of images, but why wouldn't the game, knowing it's my first time here, try to help me out at all? Well, eventually, I find out what the symbols mean, and I get the combo done, and I decide to check out the demo, just out of curiosity. And after watching the computer finish, I noticed that it did a bit more damage than I did. So now, as the player, I've got to go in and find out why that is. And it's because I canceled too early, and fine, that's not a big deal. The combo was cool, and at least now I know I can try to land it in a match. Oh, sorry, let me get that, 1 second. What's that? The combo isn't practical in a match? Oh, okay, but then why would they have me learn it? 'Cause it looks cool. Right. Okay, thanks. So yeah, the resource that's up until this point been showing me practical combos has now made me spend my time learning something that I will almost never use. That's great. And with all of this, it really makes you ask, who is this for? Is it for the new players? Well, it's clearly not intended to help them learn the game, since it mostly will confuse them and teach them bad habits. Is it for the experienced players? Well, no, it's probably not for them either, because they've already got the legacy knowledge for how to do these combos, and they're well aware that it's practically useless, and the combos aren't hard enough to justify even being a challenge. When I was trying to learn King of Fighters 15 a year ago, these trials were my least favorite part of the game because of all the reasons listed above. I was given problems, which were the combos, but at no point did the game try to teach me how to make my own combos or even help me understand what the moves did. My first videos on this channel were actually demonstrations of how to use special moves in King of Fighters that I made to help me learn the game. Street Fighter V at least takes a better approach to the combo trial. The trials serve very clear purposes to teach players fundamentals in the game as well as situational combos. There's jump-in combos, corner combos, and crush counter combos all there to learn and practice, which helps players understand the context of when they should use these combos. Granted, the game could do with labeling them for newer players, but still, they're there. Street Fighter V even goes above and beyond with its demonstration mode, detailing what moves are plus or minus and how to use them in a match. In addition to that, players are even incentivized to check these out since their demonstrations and trials reward you with fight money. But what if I told you that this was also part of the problem? When a new player jumps into the game and wants to learn a character, naturally they would start with Volume 1, right? Especially if they're going to get fight money for it. Well, the earlier volumes of these trials run on different frame data and even movesets, depending on the season of the game that they're from. The game warns players of this, but to be honest, I think the message is more confusing than anything, especially if they have no context for what's actually changing. Here's a more extreme example. This is a Jury combo from Season 1. Basic cross-up combo and light confirm. This is undeniably useful, and it actually does still work in Season 5 as shown here. There's just one slight problem. Later in Street Fighter V's lifespan, Jury's DP changed from a kick button to a punch. So right off the bat, if you're looking to learn Jury, the game might have inadvertently lied to you, and you might not have even noticed. Especially when learning, a DP isn't easy, so this very well could lead to some people never picking the game back up because they feel it's too difficult when, really, they were just pressing the wrong buttons or doing outdated combos. And this leads us into our question of the day once more. Who is this for? In Street Fighter V, it's a good bit more obvious. Combo trials are for new players and to teach everyone what the new updates are all about. V-triggers, V-skills, and balance changes usually get their own dedicated trials, which can help us understand who Capcom is targeting. Rob Coe, a professor at Durham University, released a study showing that methods like this don't really work for teaching new skills. Things like grouping students by ability, which would be ranked mode, giving unearned praise, which would be like fight money for outdated combos, and leaving students to discover complex ideas on their own, all actually hinder learning rather than encourage it.
Hey! Creature! Leave that kid alone!
What great teachers do is give their students the tools to learn for themselves with high-quality instruction, and luckily, some games actually nailed this idea. A great teacher once said, "Tell me and I forget. Teach me and I remember. Involve me and I learn." This is what learning skills are at their core. Pretty much anything that involves learning to use a tool properly. Some people are better at using training mode than others, and some can understand how to apply frame data in real time.
That's +5!
Yeah,
That's +5!
Combo trials have an issue with involving the player on the other end, leading to people not taking away the knowledge they probably should on the long run. You see it in every game, a trial that starts with a big button and does tons of damage. The natural takeaway for most people here is, I should try to smack people with my biggest buttons and do the most damage. Now, if you played a fighting game, you know why that doesn't work, so I won't get into it.
Profound sadness.
What I will get into are the more transformative trials of fighting games. Granblue Fantasy Versus was one of the first big-budget fighting games aimed at simplifying inputs in fighting games in general for a wider audience. I'd say they succeeded in creating a balance between the simplified inputs and complicated nuance of fighting games, and a big help in that was their mission training mode. In this mode, you find normal combo trials as well as trials to help players just get accustomed to motion inputs. This level of feedback is something missing from most fighting games, so I definitely appreciate it. They also solved a lot of the issues seen in KOF 15's trial, like where I had no idea what each move in Kyo's Rekka did or its frame data. In Granblue Fantasy, those kinds of things are built right into the command list. This character, 6, has a Rekka that's explained right in the game, no need for an outside resource. But what truly sets this mission training mode apart is its matchup section. Because of how simple characters are, it's easy to break down their offensive game plan into a few favorable situations. Granblue Fantasy Versus acknowledges this and gives the keys to the player right off the bat. Now, you don't have to play a matchup dozens of times to get a feel for when your opponent is plus or how punishable a move is. Instead, Granblue sets up the situation for you and actually scores you based on damage or execution. This is incredible for so many reasons, but I think it actually speaks for itself. The coolest ones in my opinion are those that ask for a certain amount of damage, which basically gives a hint as to how punishable something is, and encourages the player to search for the optimal punish. Even if you can't find the max damage combo with your character, at least you'll walk away with more applicable knowledge about the game than you had before. Tekken's got something similar called punishment training. Now, in a game without a proper tutorial and only a few combo trials, this mode is invaluable. Each character in Tekken 7 has upwards of 100 moves, so learning to punish them can be an almost insurmountable task for new players. But this new mode is a fantastic way to get people started. So looking at this, we now have to ask, who is this kind of thing for? Well really, I'd say it's for everyone. Granblue Fantasy Versus is a totally new fighting game franchise, so it's not like there's any legacy knowledge to give anyone a leg up on the newbies. It's also a great example of how to help players fight against DLC characters if they don't own them. Now, you can still practice how to beat them without forking over your money, and in Tekken 7's case, I'd say it's for like 90% of the player base. Sure, lots of top-level players won't have much use for it, but for most of the people fighting online, punishment training is a godsend. We need to see more of this in games in the future. There's one game, though, that encapsulates the mission of these other two games, and then some, and that's Guilty Gear Strive. This game has dozens of missions to help players deal with character matchups and tells you straight up what's safe and what's punishable. Obviously the developers understand the properties of the moves because they made them, but this mode is them straight up showing you how they intend for you to interact with said moves. It's a beautiful thing, and as far as I know, no game wraps up matchup knowledge in such a neat little package as well as Strive does. The packaging is incredibly important, as presentation is what sparks the imagination of the players in the combo trial. If your trial takes place on the grid with the same song every time and no interaction with the game, you'll have a harder time remembering what you learned. Compare that to how Guilty Gear does it. You get immediate feedback from the game, and it guides your hands through the trials with repetition and text descriptions before and after. The last part of the genius of Strive's combo trials is the Combo Maker mode. This mode allows players to create scenarios for other players to try out themselves. This includes block strings, mix-ups, as well as just regular combos. Arc System Works isn't afraid to give their players the tools to learn, and I find that to be genius, because you can spend literal hours learning these combos and not realize you're actually learning deeper things in the games like Oki setups. Involving the players in the learning process allows them to find their own problems, solutions, and means to overcome whatever comes up in the future. This is TrackMania, an arcade racing game that's grown into a huge success with a large dedicated community over the last 2 decades. TrackMania runs on completely deterministic physics and is insanely technical at times, but it's also incredibly simple. You don't need a tutorial to understand it, as it's simple in design, but to improve, the game can throw a lot at you. There's different surfaces that affect the car's grip or acceleration, the car shifts gears at certain speeds, which changes your control around turns, and even driving lines too close to barriers can cause your car to get air and lose speed. I'd argue that the tech and knowledge of TrackMania goes even deeper than a lot of fighting games do. But if that was so, why can TrackMania attract so many new players as easily as it does, and fighting games just seem to struggle? The answer is pretty simple. Feedback.
Look, Doogie, I'm up to my cha-chas and busy work, so I'm gonna go ahead and take a rain check on your report card. Just have you do it yourself.
You didn't even fill out my name.
To start, I wanted to try out a track. After doing so just twice, I understood all of the controls and wanted to try to understand some of the game's mechanics a bit better. So then, I hit the training mode. And yeah, this racing game has a training mode. I wanted to get the gold medal for the first 10 training tracks, since they're pretty much the trials of the game. The trials showed me pretty much what I expected. I got to learn how to deal with certain surfaces, different specialty blocks, and what the game expected of me on turns. Some of them were really easy, others took me upwards of 30 minutes to get the gold on, but what was interesting was that I never felt confused or out of control. It was always pretty clear that there was something to improve, whether that was a strategy or just my inputs. And that's where I think the difference lies. In combo trials, there's not usually a why. I don't know why I'd want to end a combo with this move instead of this move, especially because this move does more damage. But it's pretty obvious in TrackMania why I'd try to skip the slow motion block here. The game's feedback to the player is a product of what they've done directly. You save time and you get better medals. This rewards you to experiment even after you've completed your goal because there's always more. Just because I can give the right answer to a problem doesn't mean I understand how to arrive at the solution. And in saying that, I realize that it's not a one-to-one comparison. You can't complete a combo trial better than you've completed it, as opposed to a racing game where you can almost always improve your time. But that's when I ask you, why not? Grand Blue has shown us that you can gauge trials by more than just if it was completed or not. Like, why not have certain trials that judge your combo choice by how good your Oki is after the combo is over? Or why not have certain trials that reward players on if they complete it with precise inputs or not? The combo trials we've gotten are mostly so bare bones, and they don't actually give new players many tools to learn the game they've just invested so much time and money into. There's little to no feedback from the game itself, and trying to learn with no feedback leads to all sorts of terrible consequences.
Just sit down, calm down. Let's have a serious discussion.
At the end of the day, I know fighting games are mainly seen as these two-player competitive games, so it's easy to devalue single-player content like combo trials, but let me tell you this, TrackMania players are some of the most competitive dudes I have ever seen. They will literally spend thousands of hours on one track just to be the best, and they've pushed TrackMania to its human limit in so many ways. So to say that fighting games are any different, I think couldn't be further from the truth. Some players are still grinding those ridiculous Street Fighter IV combos a decade after the game's release. Melee seems to evolve as an esport every 6 years or so, and the process for learning a fighting game just really hasn't changed. But if we want to invite new players into the community and keep them around, combo trials need to change, and there's no question about it. That's all for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.